right, everybody, we are live. Welcome to this week's edition of Fights Unwrapped. This week I have both Dustin Hunt and CJ back to do our stream with us. So excited, guys. Alec couldn't be here, he's fighting off a cold, but that's okay. We are going to get started. Before we do that, we have a bunch of headlines to talk about before we get into the UFC Vegas 71 card. And before we do all of that, we gotta pay the bills as our late Anthony Conover. He's not actually dead, guys. He's just not in USN anymore. Just saying that. So we're going to get started with talking about our sponsors real quick. So if anybody has any types of injuries, whether it's from the gym or actually doing MMA, you guys should check out rxhemp.com. Use our promo code rxhemp-usn to get some of the best CBD products in the entire world. Get 10% your entire order off today and capitalize on that offer. As well, I know Dustin and me are betting for different types of sports besides MMA, including basketball and then baseball coming up soon as well. So you guys, if anyone is a betting fiend, check out mybookie.ag today. Use promo code USN100 for a 100% sign up bonus today. That's right, 100% sign up bonus. It's a really good deal, guys. If you check out mybookie.ag, I for sure am. So we are gonna get started. We are gonna go in. How do I say this? The least exciting to the most exciting headlines, okay? That's how we're going to do it today. So we are going to start off with this one. Darren Till gets released from the UFC. Let me see here if I can show off my production skills. Let's see. Right over here. Yes. And share. Okay, so I think in just a millisecond this is going to share the screen if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Oh, I gotta add myself to the stream, that's why. Okay, one more second, guys. There we go. Okay, that's what I got it working right now. So, yes, like I said, our first headline of the day is going to be Darren Till getting released by the UFC after 8 years, but he says he will be back. Okay, so thoughts on this? We're going to start with Dustin, if you're ready to go. How do you feel about the UFC? Well, it wasn't really the UFC's decision to cut him. It was kind of Darren Till's request to be cut from the UFC as of right now. So how do you feel about that?
I feel it was weird that they cut him because I remember he had a little war there, and then Dana was like, "Well, his stock rose because of that," and then a couple months later, he's cut.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works. I mean, there's plenty of fighters you could cut other than Darren Till, in my opinion, but I mean, we'll see. I didn't feel any type of way because I don't think Darren Till was ever going to get back to what he was. So, in my opinion, I'm not too bummed about it. I mean, I like seeing Darren Till fight, but I think I need a reason. I need a reason because I don't understand. I don't quite understand why he was cut to a point. But I mean, they threw him in with a tough fighter, his first fight back for a while, and I mean, in my opinion, they shouldn't have. He should have fought someone a lot lower. Kind of got himself warmed back up to the cage. He's not John Jones, for God's sake. Like, so therefore, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't really feel bad. I don't feel good. It's weird.
Yeah, I hear you. CJ, do you have any thoughts about Darren Till getting cut? By the way, guys, if anyone does not know, Darren Till pretty much requested to get cut. He is 1 out of 6 of his last fights, so just to give you some context. So, CJ, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it was the right move. He definitely needs to get healthy. He was struggling with a lot of knee injuries for pretty much that entire run that you just went on about his record. Fought Whitaker, lost Gastelum. He got that win against Gastelum. That's the only win that he got in the last few years. So he came back against Duplessis, like Dustin just talked about, and got demolished. It was a bad sighting. So I think it's good for him. I think he's self-aware. He's understanding where he's at right now in his career. So he needs to stay healthy, get healthy, come back. We know he had that big run at 170 a few years ago when he fought for the title against Woodley. So it's kind of been, he struggled a little bit, but yeah, just reset. Dana White said he has a great relationship with Darren Till at the press conference after the fight, and he said he plans Darren Till coming back as well. So yeah, just get healthy. He's definitely a comedian on social media, always putting up some funny stuff. So yeah, wish him the best, and hopefully he can come back soon and get back in contention in that middleweight division.
Yeah, I'm definitely, when I hear both of y'all's points when it comes to Darren Till, I'm pretty much on the same boat for both of you. I definitely was kind of shocked, like Dustin, when he got cut. At the same time, I'm like on CJ's side in terms of the fact that I feel like he needs this time to reset. He needs this time to really think about who he hangs out with, outside influence.
What the fuck is he doing the last 3 years?
Yeah.
What do you mean heal up? You ain't been doing shit. I feel like you should have healed up a long time ago. I don't know. Unless your knee takes 3 years to reconstruct. I don't know.
Well, maybe he tore his ACL, and then I think he tore his ACL after he fought Whitaker.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was 2020.
You know
yeah,
that's a long time ago. Yeah. What were you doing? I don't know.
Probably chilling, man.
That's how you get healthy.
So I think this time for him, probably take a year or two off. He just might come back next year, get healthy, get right, get his mindset right. I saw him. I mean, I thought he would have a better fight against Duplessis. I saw him training with Chimaev, so I thought he was going to have a good outing, but I don't know. So I just wish him the best.
I feel like recently was the fact that he was, chilling with Chimaev. I didn't think that in the last 3 years he had a few mishaps in terms of outside of the octagon influences, things like that. So I feel like that definitely played a role in this as well. But I wish him all the best. I really do hope he comes back and we love his fight against Wonder Boy. That was the Darren Till that I fell in love with years ago, a few years ago, right? Facts, exactly. And so we want to see that again. I can't wait till he comes back, hopefully within next year or so. But okay, let us talk about another headline that is, how do I say this? Not the most exciting headline, but kind of controversial. So I'm going to bring this up right here. Francis Ngannou, okay, he had some words to say about Jon Jones' latest victory at UFC 285. Now, if anybody knows anything about those two, they beefed real hard before, because obviously ever since Jones was talking about going up to heavyweight, Francis and him were mouthing off to each other pretty blatantly, and so a lot of what was said was there. It's in writing. However, this time, after Jon Jones' victory, Francis actually congratulated him on his victory. He didn't really say much except that something like "good job, Jon Jones," something like that along those lines. And so we don't know if that really means anything. A lot of people are really sad that he's not in the UFC right now, just because obviously we would love to see a matchup like that could pretty much place whoever is the GOAT, especially in the heavyweight division, that's for sure. So I'm gonna start with CJ. CJ, how do you feel about Francis's comments about Jones? Do you ever think, and we talked about this last stream, do you think this fight is ever going to happen? Dana obviously says, nope, hell no, this is never going to happen. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's good. Even though Francis is not in the UFC right now, I think they're just creating the story if it does happen, because this is what we're going to talk about and lead up to the fight if it does transpire. So I think it was interesting. He said, sincerely heavyweight king. So obviously he feels like he's the uncrowned guy. He never lost the belt. He gave it up. In my opinion, he gave it up. But it's going to be, and for Dana's comments about Francis never fighting in the UFC, he said that a lot about so many fighters. During his time being president of the UFC, he's always said one thing, and then if the money makes sense, of course they're going to make the fight. If John already wants that fight, and I'm not sure what Francis wants to do. I know he tore his ACL I think last year, so he wants to get healthy. I saw a report about him potentially boxing Wilder. I don't know what his plans are. That's going to be definitely something that everybody's going to be watching and looking out for. But I think it could still happen. Jones. I think after Jones fights Stipe, I can see that. I can start to see some negotiations really start to fire up for Jones and Ngannou. That's a big fight. I mean, you just don't want to have a Tony Khabib situation. One of these things like a what if, or what if unfortunately we never saw GSP and Silva in there for a super fight at 185, and then GSP comes back at 185 and wins the belt. It's like, why couldn't we see that against Silva in your prime? But you just don't want to have those what if scenarios with two guys that in the heavyweight division they're to me they're heavyweight prime. They're 35, 36 respectively. So they still have a lot of time left to get a fight done. So I'm staying optimistic despite what Dana's going to say, despite what Francis's contract right now in regards to what he's going to do post UFC. And John's a champ. And outside of Stipe, I just don't really see anyone really being a threat to him other than Ngannou because he has that knockout power.
Yeah, for sure. And also for the context, I feel like I'm very fortunate enough to be one of Dana's 1,852 followers on Twitter. So I know, right? I don't know how I got that far, guys, but I do. And for some reason, I'm not going to say anything bad about him because I believe that he's a really great promoter. So he's going to say things like CJ said about, freaking Francis is never going to be in the UFC, and then you make it so dramatic that everybody starts talking, right? But I can see this beating a lot of different pay-per-views. The whole Francis versus John Jones fight, I can see beating a lot of pay-per-views, including the one with Conor versus Khabib. I can definitely see this fight being bigger than that, for sure. And everybody has their own opinion. I think this fight, if it ever happens, would be one of the biggest, if not the biggest pay-per-view that the UFC has ever done, because it is John Jones and it is Francis Ngannou. But I'm going to go to Dustin and get his thoughts on Francis's thoughts after John Jones's victory. What do you think about that? And do you think that this fight will ever transpire between them?
I mean, in my opinion, who gives a shit about Francis? I mean, when I hear his opinion, I'm like, ain't you retired or some shit? Like, the way I see it, if he wants to talk about John Jones, come back, dude. And when he says he's the uncrowned king, I would say that if it wasn't John Jones. If like Cyril Gane won it, I'd be like, okay, bro, you got beat the fuck up. Or if like any other heavyweight got it, you guys probably got beat. But when it comes to John Jones, you can't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that dude didn't know. I think Francis would lose that fight. I think it'd be tougher than Gane, but I think Francis would lose inevitably. And then when it comes to that, I mean, I thought it was hilarious. The funnier story to me is when John called him a big old pussy in the pro. I was dying. I was like, that is the John Jones I love. But honestly, Francis can say what he wants. You can't be the uncrowned king when you left. That's like fucking Khabib saying that shit. And I'm just like, well, you chose to leave, so that's on you. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, I can see that. And also, we have two more headlines. Obviously, one of them is something that we are dying to talk about, guys. But before we talk about that, we do have one more headline if I can find it. If not, then we'll just skip to the headline that I was really excited to talk about. But that's fine, no problem. We can talk about UFC 285 breakdown. What the hell happened during that whole card? It was spectacular. And just give me a few seconds, guys. I definitely want to share the screen and show the actual fight card being there. Let's see, over here, share that screen. Perfect. And we're going to add it. Let's see, to the stream. Okay. There you go. Okay, let's talk about what happened in UFC 285. Now, a lot of people want to bypass the prelims, but I did want to mention, one Ian Gary doing a fantabulous job, because it's not just fantastic; it was amazing. And we pretty much predicted he was going to get a KO victory over Song. A lot of people did, so I'm not too surprised about that. Tabata Ricci, also another great victory, got the sub, against Penne, which is not super far-fetched as well. But let's fast forward to the main card and talk about Bo Nickel. Made me some money that weekend, got the plus 500 on the first round finish, so I was very, very happy about that. Now, CJ, let's start with you. Are you surprised at all, or were you surprised at all with Bo Nickel's performance? A lot of people said he had a tough time getting Pickett down, with the takedown, so that was something that many people were talking about. But what are your thoughts about Bo Nickel? Obviously, is he the real deal? You have to see more fights before you actually get convinced about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just want to go back to the prelims real fast, too. I want to give a couple people some shout-outs. Cameron Simon, South African, him and Du Plessis are with the same camp. They did a great job. They got W's on Saturday. Cody Garbrandt, it wasn't the most exciting fight. He did the no love shuffle. But other than that, it was really, they're kind of just standing in front of each other. Amanda Ribas definitely got a big time win. She was able to get that sub against a top 10 flyweight. That was definitely a big one for sure. Marc-Andre Barriault, he was getting rocked in that first round, and in the second round, Marquez, his gas tank it was over for his gas tank, and Marc-Andre came in there and got the finish. That was a big finish for him. Yeah, the prelims were great. The prelims were great. I watched the card the whole thing through, and it was a lot of really good fights. It was a lot of good. Yeah, we could get to the main event now. Yeah, I just want to give people a couple shout outs because they did a really good job.
Okay. Anything about Bo Nickel before we move on to the next few fights?
Yeah, Bo Nickel did a great job. He did a great job on Saturday night. We know what he wants to do. He wants to go for that takedown and get the sub. People said it was a nut shot. He went on Ariel's show. He said it was, he kicked him in the inner thigh. It wasn't a nut shot. From the angle I saw, it does look like a nut shot. But nonetheless, he took him down, got into that arm triangle. He also was receiving criticism about, the way he did the arm triangle. People were getting at him for that. He responded to that on Ariel's show and talked about that's just his style of getting the arm triangle, getting the submission. He said he has his style. He'd rather be in the mount. Obviously he's a wrestler. So, if he doesn't get the sub, he's still in a dominant position being in mount. So that's how he looked at it. And I think, that's a good perspective. And I didn't even look at it that way, but until he broke it down, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And Pickett, he's been around. We know wrestling, takedown defense and wrestling is not his strong suit. And it was kind of definitely a match made in heaven for Bo, and he made it happen. He did exactly what we expected him to do. UFC debut, first fight on a John Jones card. He answered the call, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, Dustin, I know you're muted a little bit. I'm not sure if you can talk, but if you have any thoughts about Bo Nickel and his performance at UFC 285, you are more than welcome to talk right now.
I'm muting on purpose, so don't worry.
It's all good.
Yeah, so basically, I think Alec was right. He did knee him in the balls. I'm not gonna lie. And Bo Nickel tried to say he didn't. He absolutely did. He kneed him straight in the nuts. That was not thigh. He hit him straight in the balls. And then he threw him. I thought Bo Nickel was gonna win regardless. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Bo Nickel's getting fast tracked, and we'll see. We'll see, man. When he gets up against real competition, we'll see. Because just because he's a dominant wrestler does not mean he's going to win titles and everything. There's been dominant wrestlers that didn't win championships. That's just the fact. But we'll see. I hope he does well. It'd be good for the sport. He's a really good. Even casuals know him. He's really popular. So I think that it's going to be a great ride for him in the UFC. So I'm looking forward to it. But this fight, I didn't see much. That's my problem with Bo Nickel right now is I'm not seeing much. Like, it's not like I've seen him go 2-3 rounds. I haven't seen him face a tough fight. It's kind of like Kazmat. I mean, Kazmat had to get those rounds in with Gilbert Burns. I mean, Gilbert made him a little bit mortal, man. That's just the facts. And then he showed when you face a top elite level fighter, that's what happens to you. You know, you're going to get pushed to your limit. It's going to be tough sometimes. So we'll see. We'll see, though. I'm excited for him. In this fight, I guess I wasn't too impressed. I mean, I knew he was going to do what he did. I wasn't anything I was surprised about, to be real.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can see both sides. I can see the fact that, you know, he obviously did a really good job with dominating Pickett, but at the same time, like, was I surprised that he did? No, I betted on that. I got the bet done, so I was very happy about that. Now, something that was very controversial for UFC 285 was the second fight, which was a lightweight bout between Jalen Turner and Mateusz Gamrot. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are saying that Jalen Turner got robbed. Now, I personally think that the decision was fairly right. You know, I think that Gamrot had a lot of great takedowns, and Turner had a really hard time defending them. At least that's what I watched. Maybe I gotta watch that fight again. Turner had his moments, obviously, striking wise, that left Mateusz Gamrot very vulnerable. But at the end of the day, you know, he just went back to what he knows, which is his wrestling, and that's why I think that's the reason why he won the decision after 3 rounds. I'm gonna go to Dustin first. Okay, were you surprised at all about Mateusz Gamrot's performance? Did you think it was a robbery? What do you think about this, Dustin?
I hate the word robbery. It gets annoying. Like, people use robbery in close fights.
Mm-hmm.
Like, robbery is when you get completely robbed. You obviously won the fight, and that's how it is. I don't think it was like that. I think people they fling around that word for me a little bit too much. Me personally, I think that it was just a close fight. It could have went either way. And that's just the facts. That's what people need to realize. Close fights go other ways sometimes. They go the way some people don't like. They go the way some people like. It is what it is. And, you know, Gamrot, he's a young guy. And, I mean, he's got time. He's got time. You know, a loss to a top guy is not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, not in MMA. In boxing, maybe. But we're talking about boxing, you know, maybe. It might, you know, contort your career a little bit. But at the same time, in MMA, guys take losses all the time. It's not that big of a deal. If it's a robbery, that's fine. If it's a close fight, like Dana always says, that raises your stock. When you have close fights with tough fighters, that's not a knock on you, you know. So therefore, I'm not too worried about Gamrot. I think that fight was close, and I don't think it was a robbery at all.
Okay, CJ, your turn. What do you think about this fight? Did you think, like how a lot of people said, Jalen Turner got robbed? Were you surprised at the decision at the end of the day? Tell me your thoughts.
I think the judges got it right. I definitely had Gamrot winning it. I agree. The takedowns were definitely the difference for me. Jalen Turner was rocking Gamrot definitely on the feet. I staggered him a couple times, dropped him a couple times, but I think all in all, you know, Gamrot's ability to be versatile. You know, he hit Jalen Turner a little bit, and he knew, okay, if I'm not gonna win the striking battle, I'm gonna use my other skills to win the fight, and that's exactly what he did. Jalen Turner, at times, he did good jobs of getting up, but definitely towards that 3rd round, he definitely started to get tired, and I think, you know, it was a great game plan for Gamrot, especially coming off a few weeks' notice. It's not like he had a full camp to prepare for this fight. He just used his skills and used, you know, what he's great at to win a close one. And I think, you know, I don't think it hurts the stock of either fighter. I think for Gamrot coming off the loss to Dariush, the fight prior, for him to get one back was great. And then for Turner, yeah, you know, you lost to a top guy, a close one, a very close fight. So, you know, get back to the drawing board, you know, work on your wrestling, work on your takedown defense. And because we know, like, we know guys are not going to want to stand up with you. And you could definitely rock any lightweight in that division. But if you want to be champion, you know, Islam is a wrestler. So you have to work on that takedown defense if you want to, you know, have a title around your waist.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good point that CJ made. Obviously, I think we're all in agreement that the judges got it right. You know, Gamrot with his takedowns really dominated the fight, and Turner had his moments, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the judge's decision. You don't want to leave it to that at the end of the day, right? So speaking of fighters that didn't leave it to decision, Mr. Shavkat Ramanov totally, I guess you could say his performance was not my favorite of his going into this fight because Neil did rock him a few times. He left himself very vulnerable with the punches that he was thrown at, but Ramanov came back. He kind of pinned Neil down and got that beautiful choke on him, standing up, which is really cool. And so I'm gonna go to Dustin first. Dustin, what do you think about Shavkat's performance? I honestly didn't think it was his best performance, but he got the job done at the end of the day.
No, it definitely wasn't his best, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be your best performance every night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, when you get the job done, you get the job done. You got the finish, got the choke. It is what it is. I swear. Anyway, freaking but at the same time, like I said, it's weird. You get the finish. I don't think any fighter has to perform perfectly. Ian Gary didn't perform perfectly. He got rocked. I mean, dude, there's a lot of fighters that don't perform perfectly get W's. And you get to go back to the gym and work on that. That's the beauty of it. When you don't have a clean performance, you're gonna get better from it. You don't always get better for wins. So, or complete, flawless victories like that. So I'm happy. I'm happy about it. He's a young guy, and he's gonna get better from that.
Yeah, for sure. CJ, what are your chances? Your thoughts on Shavkat? A lot of people are saying, Dana's saying, why not face Kobe Covington, Shavkat? That would be a very fun fight, according to Dana White. I would love to see him face someone like Kazma. Obviously, that would be my favorite fight to make, but obviously, Kazma probably has other plans, with the UFC, so we're waiting on that. CJ, what do you think about his performance? Do you agree it wasn't as exciting or more dominant than we thought it was going to be?
I thought it was an exciting fight because I think a lot of people thought Shavkat was just going to take Jeff down and dominate him the entire fight, and that wasn't the case. Even though Jeff Neal came in there, I believe 4 pounds overweight in the weigh-in, that probably helped him a little bit in terms of takedown defense. Staying in shape. Not necessarily sinking your body. So if he were to get rocked, could have been an earlier stoppage. So he took a lot of shots. He took a lot of damage ultimately until the end. And there was a great submission by Shavkat, for, like you said, the standing rear naked choke, got the leg on the inside, so he wasn't able to turn out of it. And it was just perfect. It was just perfect by Rakhmonov. And I definitely see Rakhmonov versus Covington. That's a big fight. You gotta advance him up there with the top guys now because he had a big win against a guy like Jeff Neal. And I said it in our preview show. I said this could I get Khamzat Gilbert Burns vibes with this fight, and that's kind of what we got. And even though Jeff Neal missed weight, Dana still gave him $50K, and I think he deserved it because he definitely put up a good fight. He rocked Shavkat a little bit. He was in trouble. When you see these guys with these undefeated streaks, you want to see some vulnerability. You want to see if they could struggle with adversity and be able to respond from it. And I think he did a great job of that. And I think it's just going to boost his popularity, even though we already know he's popular now, but especially when it comes to casuals. And I think that next fight you got to put him with a top contender because after that fight, if he were to win, it's time for the title fight.
No, for sure. And you know what? I analyze the fight between him and Kobe if it ever happens. And honestly, I think Jeff Neal hits a little harder than Kobe. Like, a lot of people make fun of him and think he has pillow hands. That's the little tweet a lot of people are talking about. So, I do agree with that in some ways. I would love to see it if it went to the ground, just because I know Kobe does have a wrestling background, so that'd be interesting to see if this fight actually goes to fruition. Okay, guys, this next fight might have been fight of the night. Okay, it probably is for me. I don't know about everyone else, but basically what happened in the women's flyweight championship matchup, Valentina made a huge mistake, probably the biggest mistake of her career, at least the one that I've seen so far in the UFC so many years of her being champion. She gave up her back, and Alexa Grasso grabbed it, hung on it like a monkey, got that seatbelt and that back take, and rear naked choked the fuck out of Valentina. And so that is exactly what happened. And for those that don't know, on my Instagram, I posted a video of Grasso actually practicing that back take during training camp. So no, it wasn't a fluke. Whoever thought it was a fluke, because I've gotten comments like that on my Twitter. It was definitely not a fluke. This girl prepared so hard for this fight. She was actually doing not too bad. You know, she was kind of pressuring Valentina against the cage a few times with her boxing and her footwork, which I was not surprised about. But Valentina got her down a few times with her takedown. So, you know, it was definitely close leading up to it. A lot of people were scoring it 2-2. I'm going to go to CJ first. CJ, what do you think about this fight? Obviously, I'm pretty sure from someone who thought that Valentina was going to dominate this fight, you were pretty surprised at what happened if she could make an error like that. And what do you think about the immediate rematch clause that she accepted? Both girls accepted that rematch clause. What do you think about that as well?
Yeah, Shevchenko and Grasso was a great fight. Very competitive. Alexa, she used her stand up, tagging Valentina throughout the majority of the fight, which led to Valentina having to use takedowns. And they were both trading shots, standing up. But I think Valentina was up, and I had her up throughout the fight. As we got to the championship rounds. But like you said, she made that mistake, tried to go for the this spinning back kick, and got caught. And like you said, she trained that. Alexa trained that drill in camp, and the moment she saw it, she capitalized and was able to finish Valentina. I think it speaks to her her work ethic. It speaks to how hard she worked, throughout that camp, man. Because everybody thought Valentina was just going to run through Alexa just because she had that close fight with Talia Santos, and she didn't want to have another close fight to where people thought she was human. But Alexa locked in. And she did a phenomenal job, and now Mexico has 3 champions, and I think it's great for that country, especially because they definitely love the fighting business. We know how much they adore boxing, so now when you add MMA to the country of Mexico, it just makes it even better now. And UFC needs to capitalize on this window that they have to bring more eyes from Mexico and to the UFC. It's very pivotal, and they definitely need to capitalize on that moment from a marketing standpoint. But yeah, she's champion, big upset. Yeah, I want to see a rematch. I definitely want to see a rematch. I want to see if Alexa can continue to keep the belt and defend it, or can Valentina work on what she messed up on, her mistakes, and try to get the belt back. I think the second fight is going to be phenomenal. I know a lot of people are calling for Erin Blanchfield to get this fight coming up next. She's obviously on a great run, had a great finish against Jessica Andrade. But I definitely want to see this. I definitely want to see this rematch first. And I could see Blanchard versus Santos, and I think the winner of that should get the match against the winner of Valentina Grasso too.
Yeah, I can definitely see Blanchfield, climbing up the ranks. I can also see Tatiana Suarez if she decides to go back to flyweight. Obviously she's beaten Alexa Grasso before in the past, so that's one thing she could probably see, she's champ now. Maybe this is my opportunity. Maybe this is the opportunity to be double champ, just like, Amanda Nunes was. And so that's definitely exciting for the women's MMA division right now. Dustin, what are your thoughts on Grasso versus Valentina? Are you excited for the rematch? What do you think about the match overall?
I'm excited for the rematch. I was surprised. This is probably the most shocking one of the night for me. I was like, wow. But yeah, I did see that back take, and that back take was perfect. Good timing. Jumped right on her like her life depended upon it. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see, and I did not think she was going to choke Shevchenko out. But, it is what it is. Like, eventually long runs come to an end. You stick around long enough as a champ, most of the time your reign's going to get ended. Mm-hmm. Like Amanda Nunes happened to her. It happened to Shevchenko. Like there's only a few champs it hasn't happened to. I think it's going to be a good second fight. I think Shevchenko's probably going to win the second one. I don't think she makes the same mistake. But like Nate Diaz said, I hate that spinny shit. Like spinning kicks and shit are cool, but at the same time, dude, they put you at so much risk, in my opinion. If you're not really good at them and really solid, and you don't do it at the right time, it's a waste of energy. You're most likely going to miss most of the time. If you're facing a grappler, if you miss, they're gonna take you down pretty easily. I don't like the spinning shit. I think like spinning back fists are cool because they're a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But when you do, or spinning elbows are fine. It's quicker. When you do a spinning back kick, it's unless you're very, very fluid, it's a slow move. It's a slower. It's really a slower move. Unless like Joe Rogan, has that perfect spinning back kick. Or I think the spinning back kicks, dude, have to be practiced so much that you're so good at them that you can do them as second nature. And if you mess up on them, it's bad for you, man. Like, I really think it's just bad for you. I don't know why people do them, and Shevchenko found that out. Someone got her back, and that's what happened. And she got choked out, and she didn't fight hands, and she didn't fight the hands the correct way to a point. And grip that neck, and it's over, man. That's all she wrote. Wrote.
That hold, that lock that Alexa had too. She switched up the hands, and then put her head right here. They really lock on tight. And I saw the graphic of Valentina's face. Like right here, from here up, it was nothing but red. From like her lips up, it was nothing. It was straight red, and then down, it was like a regular skin complexion. So that hold was tight, man. And that just goes. She wanted to get her out of there. And to me, that's the type of hold that was, and she did. Man, congratulations.
She squeezed that.
Yeah. She was like, man, and Valentina's tough too. Like, she really didn't want to tap. It was almost like she was just gonna just pass out, and then she was like, you know what, whatever. I'll tap. But great fight. Can't wait to see the rematch.
Yeah. Speaking of great fights, let's talk about I know, right? That transition was perfect, guys. Okay. Jon Jones is back. And he came back with a huge vengeance, okay? Beautiful takedown on Ciryl Gane. Like, pretty much everybody here predicted was going to happen. Then he got him in the great guillotine, and Gane just said, nope, I'm done. Fight's over. Jon Jones wins. And then the GOAT status starts talking. Everybody talking about Jon Jones being the GOAT. That is what I want to talk about today with you guys, because I think that Twitter is going nuts on MMA Twitter, literally talking about, oh, Jon Jones is the GOAT, GSP is the GOAT, Silva's the GOAT, DJ is the GOAT, Aldo's the GOAT, and so on and so forth. It's just ridiculous right now on Twitter. So I'm going to go with Dustin first. Dustin, what do you think of the Jon Jones fight? Obviously, I know you weren't super impressed with what happened. At the same time, do you think Jon Jones is considered the GOAT?
I was super impressed about the result.
Yes.
What I'm not super impressed with is the fight as a whole. I'm going to tell you right now, like, Ciryl Gane looked like a child when Jon Jones gripped his waist. He looked like a kid. Like, honestly, he didn't fight. He didn't try to get out of it. He was just shell-shocked as soon as Jon Jones gripped his waist. I was like, are you going to do something about it, though? Are you going to move? Are you going to, like, I don't know. Like, try not to hit the mat? I don't know. Like, you tell me. I don't know. That shit was pathetic. That fight was pathetic. I'm going to be completely honest. Jon Jones made it look pathetic. Like, Jon Jones, all he did was grip his waist. I've never seen an easier takedown. He gripped his waist. He had some pressure on his back. He tripped him. He tripped his right foot and put him on his knees. And then that's all she wrote. Dragged him. He put him on that cage. And then he held the position. Now, I don't know. Maybe your boyfriend can say something better about this, but I don't think that guillotine was good. I don't think it wasn't. At it. No. I think the thing that got Gane was the fact that Jon Jones put his weight on top of his head. So like when he had the guillotine, he put body weight on top of the head. So it wasn't the guillotine, in my opinion, that was really tight. It was the fact that Jon Jones put his body weight on top of Ciryl Gane's dome and literally pressed his body weight down. So no matter how good the choke was, He put 250 something pounds or even heavier after he ate and hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Put his body just on his head. He put on his head. He pressed that choke down with his whole body, and basically it created enough pressure with the arm and that body weight where it pretty much was choking him out. Which, again, this is why I call him. That's why I call Jon Jones the greatest martial artist I've ever seen. Because who does that shit? Who gets a guillotine by literally body weight in a slight hold? A slight hold on that neck. He knew to put his body weight on top of his dome, press down, pull up with his arm a little bit, and that's all she wrote. That shit looked. He made Cyril Gane look like a kid. And Stipe, I'll address this real quick. Stipe saying he's gonna beat Jon Jones. That man is on the strongest drugs I've ever heard of in my life. Like, he had to be smoking some good shit when he said that. I was like, Stipe, you are going to get fucking beat up. Like, you're going to get beat up. And I really found out how much people hate Jon Jones after that fight because people are saying he looked slow. I was like, it was 2 minutes. What do you mean he looked slow? It was a 2-minute fight. He didn't give you a shot to make him look like he was fast. The fight itself was fast. How was Jon Jones slow? That don't even make no fucking sense. So literally, I'm sitting over here and I'm like, he literally slipped a punch, got his back immediately. How is that slow? How is that slow? Slip punch, got his back. That's slow to you? I don't know. That ain't slow to me. Now, Jon Jones is a big boy, and I think when you're watching heavyweights, they look slower because their limbs are so big, and they're not like little like Cody Garbrandt dancing and shit. Like, it's, of course, they don't got the mobility of the little guys, but it's like at the same time, Jon Jones looked like a monster. He's the greatest martial artist ever. I'm sorry, when it comes to martial arts in general, that dude knows probably more technique and knows so much shit that it's ridiculous to fight this dude. It's ridiculous to beat him. It's very, very hard unless he isn't focused. And it's like, hey, bro, I don't know. Cyril Gane looked fucking terrible. I'll tell you that though. That was terrible. I was so upset. I was like, that shit was pathetic. You could have punched him or something. Mm-hmm. I was like, he sat there and just got beat up. He literally looked like he didn't know what he was doing. I don't know, bro. That fight looked terrible to me. Good, hats off to Jon Jones, but not hats off to Cyril Gane. I think that was Cyril Gane didn't know what the hell he was doing, and that was crazy.
Yeah, Cyril Gane did try to do one punch, and it slipped. And Jon Jones caught that, got the takedown, did the guillotine, or whatever you want to call that, and got the win, right? So, CJ, I know you've been waiting to talk about this fight, as most of us are. What do you think about Jon Jones? How do you think about the Stipe match coming up? What are your thoughts on all that?
Jon Jones, Cyril Gane, it was just showed Jones' dominance. That's really all it showed throughout the entire week. And I get you got to sell the fight, but everybody's saying Gane was a tougher matchup for Jon than Ngannou. Remember, people were saying that like 2 weeks ago, right? Remember that was the narrative.
Yeah,
Gane was a tougher fight for Jon than Francis, and then here we go 2 weeks later, and we see this dominant performance from Jon. There was definitely a little bit of octagon rust early. He was kind of feeling some things out. Even he said it in the post-fight press conference that his stand, he was kind of wacky a little bit with the stand-up. It took him a little bit to get settled, but yeah, once he slipped that punch and was able to get the takedown, it was over. It was pretty much over from there. And for him to get the hooks, and sweep Gane's left leg to get over him, to get the hooks, and to get him on the cage. And he easily, and then for him to transition back into like a mount, he reset it. He reset himself when his back was on the cage, and then just mounted him on top. It was just so dominant. It's just like Gane offered zero resistance, and that was an issue. People talked about he needed to work on his wrestling. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought he was going to at least stuff a couple takedowns, try to get to his feet a couple times, and try to rely on his stand up and make it a competitive fight. That's what I thought. And then I thought later on, John would eventually he would get tired, and because of John's continuing to shoot and get the takedowns, and then one of those takedowns would work, and then John would get the finish because of fatigue. I did not expect first round, first 2 minutes to come in there and dominate him like that. He walked him down the whole fight, did not respect his power at all. People talked about heavyweight power, as soon as you get touched. John just walked him down, couple leg kicks, just to get things settled. Phenomenal performance to be out for 3 years and a couple months, and to come back in your first fight and become heavyweight champion of the world. It just speaks to how talented he is. It just speaks to his work ethic, his team. Really, people talked about his physique and how that was going to be a factor. Look at Gan's physique, everything. They were really nitpicking, picking and choosing. Really, I guess really trying to sell the fight. If you're trying to sell the fight and you have to nitpick and bring up little things here and there to make it look competitive, I get that. I definitely get that. But just looking back at everything that people were saying, it sounds so crazy. And man, what's next? Stipe is obviously next. And again, I think Stipe was trying to sell the fight too. He's pretty much saying, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be the one to beat John. That's good. Obviously, that's the mindset he needs to have. Definitely needs to lock in. John said, he wants him. He wants him really bad. Those are his words in the interview for Stipe, to see who's the heavyweight GOAT. I think it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be, for sure, no, it will be much more competitive than what we saw on Saturday, because Stipe has championship pedigree. He has the most title defenses in UFC heavyweight history. It's just all the finishes that he's had. People thought he would lose to Verdum. He knocked Verdum out to win the title. People thought Ngannou the first time he was going to get knocked out by Ngannou. He mauled Ngannou the first time. And people say Ngannou's the heavyweight. It's still 1-1 between Ngannou and Stipe. We never saw a rubber match. We never saw a trilogy. So it's tough, even though we would assume, because Stipe is older, that Ngannou would win again. We haven't seen that yet. So maybe we do see it down the road. I don't know. But more importantly right now is really just about John versus Stipe. I think it's going to be a great fight. Stipe does have great stand-up, great striking, wrestling background. So I think it's going to be much more competitive. People are talking about the age, but he took some time off in years prior, got the dub against DC during the pandemic. So I don't think, I think for his caliber, John's caliber, those type of fighters, they know themselves, they know their body. So when they do take time and step away from the octagon, they know how to pace themselves and train themselves when it's time to actually get that big fight. And here we are. I just think that this was supposed to be the fight. It was supposed to be Jones versus Miocic in December. Then in March, it didn't transpire. But now it worked out the way it did, and it's just going to set up for a bigger fight in July, International Fight Week. I don't know. Nothing's announced yet, but it's just going to be a great fight. And again, credit to Jon Jones. I think he's the GOAT. My top 5 is John, GSP, Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, and Khabib.
Okay, I can see that. The GOAT talks, I told you, they're everywhere now. Shout outs real quick to a few people that are commentating. Carlos Davila Jr., Logan Forge, who knows CJ, and Sean Padua. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And we have a card still to talk about. I know this one took a few minutes because obviously we really want to break down UFC 285, but now we are going to switch gears and talk about UFC Las Vegas / UFC 271. So let me just bring that up. Jan versus Valishvili, which is a headliner that I was looking forward to the most. So let us talk about. Oh, they just said that one of the two main card fights have been canceled, which was very disappointing because I almost betted on the light heavyweight bout between Vitor Petrino versus Anton Turkalj. But anyways, let's talk about the bantamweight bout that's going to be happening, which is Said Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez. Okay, so this fight is actually a lot closer than what people think, but I do have a clear winner, and my clear winner is Said, because not only is he in Nurmagomedov, he is really fast. He can win by sub. He can win by decision. He can win by KO. It really doesn't matter. I think whatever he wants to do in this fight is gonna happen. I like Jonathan Martinez too. He comes from Fight Factory, which is one of my favorite fighters, Brandon Royval's gym. So that's really cool. But I just think that Saeed is a lot faster, and he just has more paths to victory than Jonathan Martinez does. So I'm gonna go to CJ first. CJ, you know these fighters pretty well. What do you think about the outcome of this fight?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nurmagomedov as well. Again, just their wrestling background, sambo wrestling, just the pressure that those guys they put on their opponents. I think it's going to be tough for Martinez, and they just do a great job of just backing those guys up to the cage and just eliminating any type of room for space to go anywhere. Shoot for that takedown and just dominate you. He could dominate you on the ground, like you said. He has power also. Because he's so confident, he could strike so confidently because he knows your takedown and wrestling is not better than his. So that's why you see a lot of wrestlers, they feel so free on the stand up. Even Bo went for a spinning kick and busted his ass. He fell and got hurt. He embarrassed himself. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Saeed in this one, man. I think he has a dominant performance and in a division that's stacked. I mean, the bantamweight division is stacked. It's so crazy and obviously the main event is in that division as well. So I'm gonna go with Nurmagomedov in this one by finish.
Okay, I would love to see it finished. Like I said, I like Martinez too, but I just think that Saeed is just more well-rounded, and like I said, he could probably finish the fight in whatever fashion he wants. That's pretty much what's gonna happen. Dustin, do you have any thoughts about Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez?
I gotta ask you a question. Is he related to Khabib? I heard a long time ago he wasn't. I thought he wasn't.
I don't think so. I just think they have the same last name.
Yeah, I heard he's not related to Khabib. That was a big misconception. People thought he was related to Khabib. Believe it or not, there's a lot of Dagestan boys that aren't even affiliated with Khabib. A lot of people think they are, but they're not. There's plenty of them who don't rock with Khabib. When it comes to I actually agree. Saeed he's a very. I'm actually a big fan of him. He's one of those new age martial artists that they've been doing wrestling their whole lives. So I think he's one of the new age guys. And thank John Jones for making that popular because he did. He made all that shit popular when it came to being a complete guy. So Saeed, yeah, I'm rooting for him in this fight. I think he's going to win it. I don't think Saeed's going to get beat until he starts going up, in competition. They're kind of warming him up. But again, I think the best base in MMA is wrestling. And people can argue till you're blue in the face, argue with your mom, bro, because I'm telling you right now, wrestlers in the UFC have the biggest advantage over you. All they need to do is be like a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. That's it. If you're a D1 wrestler, and I would say around purple. I mean, once you get to purple as a wrestler, I think you're pretty up there because you know the offensive game a lot more than the lower tiers. But honestly, a blue belt for a wrestler can work. All you need to know how to do is get out of shit. That's it. Like as a wrestler, all you need to do, don't be like Chael Sonnen and get triangled when you dominated the fight. That's all you need to do. All you need to do. And Dagestan boys, they fight Sambo, and Sambo allows submissions and shit like that. So therefore these guys are already wrestlers / submission grapplers. So they already know what they're doing. So I like guys like Saeed. They're too well rounded. He's a big dude too. He's really long in that division. He's kind of like Sugar. He's kind of like Sugar Sean. Really tall, really long. And so guys like that at 135 are just hard to deal with in general because they're so much bigger. But we'll see. I'm a big fan of the dude. I think he's going to do a lot of good things in the sport. I hope people stop thinking he's related to Khabib because he's not. I understand that's a really rare last name. Like Nurmagomedov, you don't hear that shit all the time. So obviously when you hear the last name, you're like, oh, Khabib. I thought the same thing. I thought he was his cousin or some shit. I was wrong. I looked it up. And I was like, oh, he doesn't even train with Khabib. That's weird. So like I said, I like the kid. I think he's going to do great in the UFC, and I don't think he's going to lose until he steps up in comp.
I have a comment that I wanted to post before we start getting into more of the fights. Logan Forge, who I know that CJ knows, says, I want to see someone with sumo wrestling background come into the MMA. I mean, I feel like I don't know how far that would take you, because even though sumo is obviously super popular in many countries, obviously in the Asian countries, but I just think that you just have to be super well rounded at the end of the day to really make it in the MMA world. But that's just me. And also, quick shout out to Carlos, because he is gonna be the host for our show on Sunday. We're gonna be breaking out UFC 286. So shout outs to Carlos from CJB UFC Bets. And so let's move on, guys, to the featherweight belt.
Before that, can we
Yeah.
When we talk about sumo, let's be real. Like in America, the only reason people know what sumo is because they like to make fun of the shit. I'm gonna be completely honest. A lot of people I know that know sumo, like know anything about sumo, they like to crack on it. Like they like to make fun of it because it's like big ass dudes most of the time. And it's like, and then they're making fun of guys like in the WWE, like Rikishi and shit. Like they like to make fun of sumo. I'm serious. Like they like to make fun of it. Sumo's a serious sport though. I've seen it. That shit's rough. But it's a certain point where like sumo and the UFC, I don't know, because they're not like judo is a little bit like sumo to a point. Not really though, because they do a lot of throws. It's not as much. Sumo's not really a technical. It's really about the strength and the weight of a dude. To a point. And it's like you face a judo fighter, they're gonna take that weight and they're gonna throw you. And I was like, that's what judo guys do. They like to throw. So you put all that pressure, like that chest to chest pressure on a judo guy or a wrestler, they're gonna use your weight. That's exactly. They're going to use your weight against you. They're going to kind of bend you. They're gonna take legs. They're going to start tripping you. So sumo is a little bit weird when it comes to putting that in the UFC, because you'd have to learn something else to put something on it.
Yeah, I think that's my point too. Like at the end of the day, you just have to be a little bit more well-rounded. No matter what kind of background you have. Obviously, some backgrounds like wrestling are a little bit more advanced in terms of like how far it will carry you in the UFC or MMA. But anyways, we are gonna talk about that for another day. Let's move on to the featherweight bout between Ricardo Ramos versus Austin Lingo. Now I actually have a bet, and I'm really torn about the actual outcome of this fight, because I do have a plus 275 bet on Austin Lingo. If he takes this to decision, I feel like he's probably gonna win. And but at the same time, my heart's saying Ramos, just because he's fought, better competition. He can win literally any way he wants, punches, kicks, subs. I just think that he's super well rounded. So I'm leaning towards Ramos, but my bet's on Lingo because I still think he's 9-1 for a reason. He hasn't faced much competition like Ramos has, but he is a really tough guy, and if he wins, then I win that money at the end of the day. So CJ, what do you think about these two guys? Do you think it's going to be competitive, or do you think Ramos or Lingo are gonna dominate one after the other?
I think it's going to be competitive. Lingo's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Ramos struggled a little bit, but they have him as the favorite. So I could definitely see him going in there, potentially, using his experience. He's much more experienced than Lingo, and octagon experience, and getting a decision win. And there's also a big fight for Austin as well. He could come in there on a big stage, make a big moment. So I think Ricardo will probably win. I think he'll use his experience to get the victory via decision, but I think it's going to be a really close fight, and I can't wait to see it.
Okay, Dustin, do you have any thoughts on Ricardo Ramos versus Austin Lingo?
Not really. This isn't one I'd pay attention to. I'd probably watch this the day after, to be honest. Ramos has more experience. I don't know. That's a hard one for me to call. I mean, I probably would pick Ramos in that fight.
Yeah. Okay, well, let us move on to a catchweight bout. Yes, between what's called the former main event, Ryan Spann versus Nikita Krylov, was looking forward to this event. I know me and Dustin we were both watching that card intently, mostly for this fight. I do have Spann winning. Now he is a plus 145 underdog. I can see him winning by sub. I can see him winning by punches because he has that power. Those are the two kind of outcomes that I can see when it comes to this fight. Let's go to Dustin first. Do you have any, thoughts on this fight? I know it's at catch weight. I know they're bigger guys. Like, what do you think about this, Dustin?
I got Krylov.
Okay.
I got Krylov all the way. I think when they start striking, I think Krylov's the better guy, in my opinion. I like Ryan Spann, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to get through Krylov like that. I don't think he's going to knock him out. Mm-hmm. This is one where I was so mad when this didn't happen last week. Not last week, but
the week before, yeah.
That one was one I was looking forward to. But I think Krylov, I don't know if he's going to knock him out. I don't think this one goes the distance, though, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which one's going to land first.
Mm-hmm.
I have some confidence in Krylov. I don't think he's going to lose to Ryan Spann, to be real. I think it's going to be a good stand-up match, and we'll see how it goes. This is like a kickboxing fight, so we'll see.
Okay, CJ, do you have any thoughts on the former main event of the fight night, Krylov versus Spann?
Yeah, I'm going with Spann. Knockout. I agree with Dustin. I think it is going to be a stand-up kickboxing top fight. Spann's coming off that knockout victory on Dominic Reyes in his last fight. It put him to sleep. So I think he's very confident right now. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago he was unable to compete because of the injury from Krylov. But I think Krylov obviously has a couple weeks to recover, train, whatever he was going through. He said he has some stomach problems. So hopefully he's good. And we can see this fight, for 3 rounds. Unfortunately, we know it's not 5 rounds like we were accustomed to seeing, but I think it just gives more of a reason for Spann to get him out of there early and then try to get some cash and for a bonus.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see that with those two guys. I definitely still have Spann winning. I don't know why. It's just that I see that power and I see that sub opportunity from him. Krylov is very talented as well. It's just that I think Spann's power and his quickness is going to set him apart from Krylov. So let's move on to the co-main event. Is a heavyweight bout between Alexander Volkov versus another Alexander, but Romanov. So yeah, surprisingly, this is the battle of the Alexanders in the heavyweight division. Now, I am going to go with the man that has more experience because Romanov, I feel like, is going to gas out real quickly if he does not finish Volkov in the first round. That's how I see this fight happening. Volkov is just more experienced at the end of the day. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded, and I think that's going to, make a difference in the outcome of this fight. So I'm going to go to CJ first. CJ, what do you think about this heavyweight bout? Who do you have winning? Is it Alexander or is it Alexander?
All right, yeah. I'm gonna go with Romanov just because, just want to see the heavyweight division a little bit more versatile. Obviously, Volkov has been around for a while. Has had some really good fights against some of the top guys in the division. I agree, he does have the experience over Romanov, but I think for Romanov, he wants to usurp himself into that category, start getting some of these big fights. Blades, Sergey Pavlovich, Aspinall could be an option. Him coming off the ACL. Down the road for Romanov, not in the next next fight, but next few fights.
Yeah.
This is a big name. This is a big name you want to have on your resume, because the UFC will look at this and be like, okay, the next guy, we're gonna put you with another big name, and let's see how you do against him. So I'm gonna go with Romanov in this one, man. I think it's gonna be a finish as well. Heavyweight division, it's rare that those guys go 15 minutes. So I'm gonna go with Romanov in the co-main.
Okay, Dustin, do you have any thoughts on this heavyweight bout between Alexander Volkov and Alexander Romanov?
I don't have any confidence in Volkov anymore. I'm gonna be real. I think he's past it.
Okay.
That's just me. I think he's past it. I think Romanov's gonna get him. That's. I don't think Volkov's gonna be much. I think he's gonna be kind of a stepping stone in heavyweight for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
To be real, so I think Romanov's going to get him. I don't know if he's going to. I don't want to predict the finish. I hate predicting finishes. I only predict finishes when I know you're about to get finished. To be real, like. But Volkov's a big guy, but he's gotten it in his recent times, man. He's gotten it. So, I think Romanov's going to get him. I don't know by KO, but definitely by decision. Definitely by decision. If he does KO him, I think it's going to happen mid-second round or third.
Okay, just looking at the comments, Logan Forge is making a lot of comments on the fact that he's going with Romanov because he's named Sir Alexander Romanov. I get it. Great joke. It's actually pretty funny. So good for him, Logan Forge, and everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We are at the main event of the evening for Saturday night. It is the bantamweight bout between Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Okay, guys, this fight for me was actually very hard to choose for many reasons. I like both fighters for different reasons, but my heart goes with Petr Yan. Number one, he really needs to win this fight. He's coming off 2 losses right now, both decisions, to Aljamain Sterling and to Sugar Sean O'Malley, who is one of our boys. But here's the thing, Merab, he has power, he's quick, he's very versatile. But the thing is, I think Petr Yan is smart and he doesn't put himself into very vulnerable situations. The thing is with him is that he's a very slow starter. He usually kind of cranks everything up, around the second and third round, and then obviously the championship rounds to win the fights. But the last few fights that have gone to decision haven't been his way, so that's obviously very, very concerning to me. So I hopefully can predict Yan finishing maybe by ground and pound, maybe using some of his wrestling against Merab, which would be very surprising because I know Merab does have a base as well. So I'm gonna go to Dustin first. Dustin, what do you think about this bantamweight belt? Are you excited for Yan versus Dvalishvili?
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see Petr Yan again. To be real, I mean, yeah, he needs this win, but going back to the Sugar Sean fight, it was arguable. It could have gone either way.
Mm-hmm.
When people say he needs a win because he lost to Sean, I agree and the only reason I agree is because I believe Petr Yan's still one of the best in that division. I still believe he's a championship level fighter. I still believe he probably should have beat Sterling. Probably he should have beat Sterling the first time. But he was an idiot and knee dude in his head, which I still don't get it. I'm still mad about that. I don't get why he did it. I'll never understand. I'm going back on it and I'm just like, why the fuck did you knee him in his head when he was down? You fought too many times in these rules. No, you can't knee a dude while he's on all fours. You know damn well you couldn't do that. I don't know. I still can't get over it. I remember watching that fight. I was pissed. But it's a certain time where I think Petr Yan's the best in the division. I don't think he loses this fight. I still think he's one of the best in the division.
Yeah.
And that's just period. I think he's a champ level fighter. I think he can win the belt. That's the way I feel about it still. He can still beat Sugar Sean. He can still beat Aljamain Sterling. The only thing he made a mistake with Sterling the second time by letting Sterling grab his back. That was the problem. You shouldn't have done that. And you know what? That's his fault. That's why he lost the fight. Just like how Islam beat Volk. The only reason Islam beat Volk is because he rode his back for dear life. That's it. That was Volk's fault. That was Volk's fight if Volk didn't let him do that. But that's Volk's fault. And Yan needs to realize that shit's his fault. But at the same time, I don't think he loses to anybody but a title fight. In my opinion, and you're not beating him. Sugar Sean, again, I love Sugar Sean, but that was arguable. That was very arguable. I almost thought he lost in that fight. So it's very, very. I think Petr Yan's still a championship guy. I don't think anyone's beating him unless it's for a strap. That's it. The only guys I think they can beat him are the ones who fight for a strap.
For sure. Okay, CJ, what are your thoughts on this main event for the bantamweight division? And what does this mean? Whoever wins this fight, does that mean they get, number one contender spot? What do you think about that?
Yeah, for Marab, absolutely. If he's able to get this win, definitely puts him in that his next fight will be a number one contender spot. His teammate Aljamain Sterling most likely will go to featherweight.
Yeah.
He's talked about moving up, regardless win or lose, and when he faces Henry Cejudo. So it's if he gets this win, it's a big name. It's a guy that had the belt, and it's been like you guys just talked about. He's been in close, very competitive fights. So a dominant win would definitely bring some eyes to Marab, but he's more of a pressure guy. He's a pressure fighter. I look back to his fight against Aldo. He was definitely pressuring Aldo, get him on the cage, and just Aldo was getting up from the takedowns, but he just couldn't stop the pressure. It was just constant pressure in front of him over and over again with strikes, and he just wasn't able to get the victory for Aldo. But Jan, you're right. He is a slow starter, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's lost his last two fights. He picked it when he fought Aldo in 2020. I believe that was the Usman Masvidal, the first fight.
Yes.
When he fought him, he started off slow early, but he picked it up like right before we usually see him start to pick it up, and he was able to get that victory in dominant fashion. So this is a big fight. It's a big fight for both fighters. I'm gonna go with Jan just because I feel like he does need it. I mean, 3 losses in a row, even though it's against the top guys in the division. There's still 3 losses in a row, and you don't want to be a guy that people that are lower you in the rankings think you're just a name that we could go through that looks good on my resume when it's time for them to compete for a title. So this is a big fight for Jan, and even though Marab is a tough game contender, I think it's going to be a close fight. But I think Jan starts a little bit earlier, and I think he gets the victory via decision.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're all on the same page with this one. Jan definitely needs this win more, but if Marab wins, I'm not too surprised. Also, one of the bets that I wanted to talk about before we end the show is my lock bet, which is actually a dog, and when Ariane Lipsky is back and fighting in the prelims, and she is a 244 plus 244 underdog. So I think I have her winning against JJ Aldridge, which is a risky bet, but I actually think she can probably pull off the finish. So that's just my lock bet of the week. And also, guys, you guys have to tune in to Fights Unwrapped next week because it's UFC 286, okay? We have Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman for the title. We have Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, okay? Another great fight. Joanne Wood versus Luana Carolina, and also Martin Vittori, who is back against our man Roman Dozales. Okay, very, very exciting fights, guys. Thank you to my co-hosts Dustin Hunt and CJ as well. CJ, thank you again for being on the show. You're always welcome to be here. And everybody that's watched, including the people from our comments, thank you so much. And we will see you guys next week. Happy Fight Week, everybody. See you.